I'm going to talk about app architecture by manual dependency injection. I'm Yoshikuni Kato, and I'm doing iOS development for about 3.5 years. And I was working at Yahoo Japan before, and after that I was working at Ohato development agency, and then I could have a chance to develop apps from scratch 5 times. So I could try new architectures. So I'm going to share what I think and what I'm doing right now. And actually, I'm working at Pangea right now. I'm making social networking apps. Yes. So, and by the way, so I attended UiCon this year. So, not a speaker, just attendee, but at the conference in Berlin in May, so 2 months ago. So there are lots of great speakers and lots of presentations, and also there was a day called Unconference Day. That is the day that the attendees organize themselves. So some people did a presentation, and I also did a presentation there, and today's talk is almost the same as that I did there. So, but that was a very good experience for me. And also, there was lots of social opportunity there. There are lots of time to communicate with other attendees. And also, there was social events on the first day of the conference. It's free, and I chose, there are several things to choose, but I chose kayaking there, so it was very good experience, but it was hard, about 2 hours, so really hard. But it was very good experience that I didn't do this in Japan, so it's good. And also lots of beer because it was in German. So if you have a chance to go to Berlin, maybe next year, it's very good time to go there. Okay, so I'm going to talk about architecture. Yes. First, I'm going to explain a little bit about coordinator pattern. This is not a main topic of this presentation, but I need extra explanation before explanation about architecture. So to understand coordinator pattern, I think this video from Swift Talk from OptiCIO is a very good source, I think. It's called Connecting View Controllers. So in this video, they make they write codes like this. And there is an episode PC, which is a table view controller. And if user select a cell, the detailed view controller appears. It's pushed to the navigation controller, which is very typical transition. And they don't use that. They don't use segue for that, and they write like this. So first, extract navigation controller, and inside navigation controller, they extract episode PC, and they set the closure. Episode DC has a closure that is executed when cell is selected, and the closure can be set from the outside of the view controller. So here, episode DC.DSelect equals closure to execute the transition to the detailed view controller. So in the closure, instantiate view controller and set the episodes and navigation controller to push. So the point is that the transition logics are not written inside the view controller. It is written outside of the view controller here. So they write these codes in a class called app. But in coordinator column, they write these codes in the class called coordinator. So coordinator is an object to handle view controller transition like that, and the logic is extracted from the view controller. So the point is that view creation and view transition are extracted from view controller. So it means that each view controllers can be isolated each other. So they don't care about other view controllers. So for example, if in this example, if the PC doesn't know anything about detailed view controller, if the PC just execute the closure with episodes, so and the rest actual transition is handled by the coordinator. So view controller can have to care about only their dependencies, and they don't care about other view controller dependencies. So I think this is a very good first point to think about dependency injection in view controllers. Yes. And also there are other names for this kind of basic idea, like router in Viber. R of Viber is router, or sometimes they call it wireframe, or some others call them navigation, or there are some other names, but I think basic idea is very same, and extract transition logic from view controller. And this pattern can be more formalized like this. And in that example, episode view controller has a root to detail, so it can be declared as an enum episode root and case detail with episode. And protocol episode routing is a closure that can be passed from outside. And view controller confirms that protocol. And when view controller wants to do transition, they just execute that closure. And in coordinator, the closure is passed. And in the closure, just switch that enum root and decide the next view controller. This is inspired by the deep linking at Kickstarter. Also, it was from the Swift Talk. They are a little bit different, but they do very similar like this. Okay, when using coordinator pattern, it's very common to use several coordinators and make kind of coordinator hierarchy. This is kind of my opinion about, I think that it's very understandable if the coordinator hierarchy is exactly the same as view controller hierarchy. For example, the app that has a tab bar controller, and tab bar controller has two tabs, and each tab has navigation controllers. So if the view controller is like this, the coordinator structure should be just same as the view controller structure. So tab coordinator responds to tab bar controller, and two navigation coordinators are responding to navigation controller. So each coordinator has a reference to the responding view controller, so they can handle that transition inside the coordinator. So I was using this program very much, but I faced some problems here. So usually, coordinator does transition. It means that coordinator needs to create the view controller. So there are two tasks in coordinator: so view transition and view controller creation. And so because it needs to create view controller, so it needs many dependencies to make that, like needs some managers or clients. So coordinator is getting bigger and really hard to test. Or sometimes I just want to just change the transition, but sometimes it's a little bit difficult to change that because the coordinator has two tasks. So the target that I want to solve is this problem. And also, okay, so the architecture that I'm thinking is the goals or architecture that I'm thinking are these. So first, all dependencies should be injected from outside because it's more testable and maintainable. And second, the coordinator doesn't do view controller creation because coordinator wants to concentrate on transition. So, and third one is a more general one, but project should be well organized. So, so to achieve this goal, I got lots of inspirations from other talks or information. So first one, about dependency injection, I chose manual dependency injection. According to Wikipedia, like using DI container or dependency injection libraries is called automatic DI. And in contrast, manual DI is kind of writing a dependency injection code inside the project, not using any external libraries. And so, yeah, automatic DI, for example, using DI container library is sometimes useful, but manual DI is not that difficult and it's controllable because we can write them by ourselves. And for example, when we want to change some object from singleton to non-singleton, it can be very easily changed if we write by ourselves. So that's why I chose that. And the second one, so coordinator wants to just do transition. So I made a view factory and also coordinator factory to do the dependency injection here and separate the tags in coordinator. And third one is inspired from the talk as Trace Week 2017, which is presented by Derek, who was the organizer of this meetup too. Today he's not here, but so he proposed that application UI components separation there, and he proposed this as a way to organize folders in Xcode project. Like app delegate is in the application folder, and UI has UI things, and components is some managers or something. So it fit me very well, and I also think that this separation is very good for object organization, not only for folder structures. So this idea was this idea inspired me very well. So this is the one reason that I wanted to do this presentation here. So yes. Okay, so I want to show you actual architecture sample. If you want to see them, it's on GitHub. I'm going to share. So first, I like to share the behavior of the app. Yeah, it's very simple, it has two tabs, and each tab has navigations, and each navigation has push transition here. So there are three view controllers here: full view controller, and bar view controller, and buzz view controller. Just three. So I like to explain their actual codes. So first, all objects are categorized into three layers. So application, components, UI. So application in application there is like updates or assets or something that relates to the application itself. And the components is kind of model layer, so managers or clients or services or entities or something like that. And in UI there is views, view controllers, or if you use MVVM, view models, or something. If you use MVP, presenter, or some kind of that thing that relates to UI. So I like to explain components first because it's very simple. And component is just model layer object. So like some services or managers. And besides that, there is a container. There is an object to manage dependencies of these component objects. Okay. So these are actual managers or services, and this is a kind of container for the services. For example, if the service is singleton, it can be declared as a variable or property because it's singleton. And if you want to make that managers one by one for each purposes, it can be a method to make that. So this is just a container for that. Okay. So I want to explain why these are necessary later. Okay, and next I want to explain a little bit about UIs. So there are three views, and each views are completely isolated. So like that. So storyboard and view controllers, and if it's written in MVVM style, view model, or if it is in the MVC style, just view controller is enough. Yes, and then routing. Yes, as I explained, the bar view has a route to bus. So in a bar view route has a case bus, and it has a routing for selected, and in view controller, when button tapped, route selected closure is executed with bus route. It's very simple. And in MVVM style, yeah, there is some discussions about in MVVM, who should communicate with coordinator, view model or view controller. Well, view model is, I think it's better. So in case of MVVM, view model confirms the protocol, and when the button tapped, so when the button tapped, view controller calls view model method, and when view model the method, when the method is called, it executes the closure process with password. It's very simple. So each view controller doesn't know any other view controllers, and it's isolated. And there is a view factory for these views. So this factory class is just a factory, and so in the MVVM style, it instantiates view controller and instantiate view model and inject them and return view controller and routing protocol. Yeah, and in MVC style, just make view controller and return them. So it's a point that this returning type is usual UI view controller. So it's not a subclass of UI view controller. So it can be very easily mocked or replaced with other view controllers. And also this routing is just a protocol, so it can be mocked as well. So in this way, coordinator can be separated into two, and transition coordinator can just concentrate on transition. So I like to explain coordinator next. So coordinator has hierarchy, so it's a little bit. It seems a little bit complex, but basic idea is just exactly the same that I explained first. So, for example, the one navigation coordinator when the coordinator starts, it makes view from the view factory and set the closure to present next one and push that. And when the row selected in the view, the present next view controller. So it's very simple. So and it has a reference to navigation controller, so it can do that. So and there is also a factory for coordinator. Just a factory. So I forgot to explain. So view factory has a reference to component protocol that I explained before, and it is a container for model layer objects. So it can inject any model layer object in this factory. So so that's why I made this class. Okay, and last one is application layer, and it includes app delegate. And the app dependency is just a container for the components and factories. Just a container really. And if app delegate wants to do something, it communicates with app dependencies and do something there. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to my presentation. Okay, so it might look a little bit complex, but it can be summarized into one figure like this. So every object are categorized into 3 layers: application, UI, components. And the app delegate belongs to the application layer, and coordinator, view model, view controller, or something that relates to UI belongs to UI layer. And other model layer services belongs to component. And besides that, each layer has an object to manage dependencies, just for manage dependencies. It is the right column. So application layer has app dependencies, and UI layer has coordinator factory and view controller factory to do dependency injection, and components layer has a components to do dependency injection. So that's why I felt that the application UI components separation is not just for the organization, but it gave me some inspirations to architect whole applications, object organizations. So right column objects are doing dependency injection. So it has a lot of dependencies. So it's not testable, but it's almost like a setting file. So I think there is no need to write tests for these files. So because of this object manages all dependencies, the left column objects like coordinator, view model, view controller, or services don't have to care about other dependencies. So it is very testable. Yes. Okay. And this changed development workflow a little bit. So I use this architecture actually in my production app at my previous company with other 2 engineers, and I think it's worked well. So for example, if you want to make service, just make service and obtain components. That is a container for service. So there is no need to touch any view layer objects or something. And if you want to make a view, just make a view controller and view model if possible, and make functions at view factory. So there is no need to care about transition there. So if you want to make transition, just update coordinator. So the making views and making transitions are separated. So it's possible to make just transition first before the next view is created, or if the opposite, like the opposite, and just make the views, but transition make later. Yes, and then I worked on some also, and it has a coordinator, networking, and requisite. So if you have interest, please see them. So yeah, some people might think this is over-engineered. So, well, I'm not sure. Honestly. So, and the dependency management objects are almost like DA containers. So probably, but so I want to know more about DA container. Okay, thank you.
Any questions?
So would you argue that the main advantage of the coordinator pattern is the block-based or closure-based sort of directives for the view controller for what it should do next?
I think coordinator. So yeah, in that example, it used closure. But I think the basic idea of coordinator is to extract the transition logics from view controller. So it can be that
One situation, so you really need to do all of that. You know what I mean? Because like you could just write it directly into the view controller if you know it's just for one thing.
but it's not so difficult. But just if you want to make I see.
This is basically your over-engineered question, right? You asked the question yourself in the end of your slides, right?
Yeah, but so if you in this architecture, if you want to make a view, just make view as usual and make a little function in view factory. So it's not that difficult as in compared to writing directory. And so, but each case that I think is alert controller, for example, alert controller is view controller. So in this principle, it should be presented through coordinator, but it's sometimes very messy. So yeah, like that.
Any other questions?
Yeah. Are there any frameworks or something you recommend to use as a base point, or do you recommend more just like building this out all on your own? Because I've seen like some kind of frameworks, things like that.
Yeah. There are some libraries like that helps coordinate a plan or something about yeah, it's a little bit difficult, but so yeah, it looks complex at first, but it is not actually not complex. So I'm not sure if other libraries are makes this more simpler.
Just a comment to both of these. You can have it as complex or as simple as you want it to be. And we've done this at a previous company where we didn't have protocols or delegates. We just had a class that knew how to create new controllers and a navigation controller that you could push those onto within that class. So the whole point of it is single responsibility. It's not really the view controller's job to know who's next, who's previous. And sometimes you'll have someone come to you and say, hey, I want to change the order of these view controllers, or I want to change this whole flow. Well, now if it's in the coordinator pattern, you can change the whole flow within a matter of minutes. But even better, when you leave the company, your code is organized so that people aren't like, how does this work and where do I go? It's all about single responsibility. It's a spectrum. You can implement as much as you want. You can over-architect if you want. But these patterns provide a lot of value to your application.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
Makes it more predictable.
Yeah, definitely. Like if you ever want to get crazy with the logic, like let's say you decide to add Facebook Connect to your onboarding flow, it's much easier to add it
can expand
Yeah.
on that? It also, you mentioned flow mostly, but what if like it's like containment of other view controls, basically childhood, I'm asking about childhood controls. How would you manage that? In my mind,
So you have a coordinator for the child view.
I'm sorry?
The child view controller would probably have its own coordinator.
Yeah, but the child, abstraction of child view is,
So you see this? So
It
if you would have-
could have its own, it could have its own coordinator.
yeah, that's what I
It's
was.
the spectrum.
Yeah.
If you want everything to be exact, you can, but just get as much value out of the pattern as you want.
Yeah.
It's up to
Exactly.
you.
No, I guess my question was, what would be like tips and tricks of what would be recommendations to do, like from experience, not from strategy?
Okay, so my recommendation is that it's understandable if the coordinator reflects the view structure exactly the same. It's understandable, I think. So and so this is so in this structure, so tab bird and two navigation birds. If some view controller has a child view controller, so I think it needs some other coordinator reference. So my recommendation is to make a coordinator. If the view controller is a kind of container view controller, like tab bird navigation or having child view controller or something. Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Cool, thank you very much.
Thank you.